What is up, guys? Welcome to another video. That Geeky guy here, and today I'll just wanna share my work in progress deck list for a Earth Briar deck. So I've been playing Briar with Plunder runs all along because Briar, I guess, does benefit a lot from Plunder runs, especially if you're playing the Lightning Briar. But the Briar deck list that I have here is Earth Briar. So somehow now we have some free slots. If you are playing Lightning Briar, you might be running all the Plunder runs, which is 9, but for Earth Briar, I think 3 is basically enough, the 3 raids. But we are removing that, and I'm just gonna share my thoughts on running a alternative to the Plunder run, which I'll talk about in a bit. But let's just have a quick overview of the loadout. So the loadout is pretty basic. It's the same as usual. So we have Rosetta, Arcanite Skullcap, Blood Sheath, Grasp, Nowrune Boots for some mirror matches, and also Spellbound Creepers. But you could argue that we can now remove Nowrune Boots, because now whenever Briar deal any amount of damage, the Earth token is just gonna be 1. So it's not limited. It's basically, there's a cap on Briar's Earth token now, so you don't have to worry about taking those arcane damage. So Nowrune Boots, you could argue that if you want to go more aggressive route, you could actually replace it with a Snapdragon Scalers, but I do want to put this in as an option, and I just love Spellbound Creeper because it at least blocks for 1, and also you can do some crazy stuff with it with the once per turn instant. But if you want to go for Snapdragon Scalers, you might want to change up the list for a bit, but I still think Spellbound Creepers is something that I would love to run. So that's it for the equipment. For some reason, I've been trying to actually collapse this, but it's not working, but that's fine. Okay, so let's take a look at the list itself. So we have 3 free slots. I did do some changes here, so we're going to take a look. So the basics of the deck is pretty simple. So we want to run some non-attacks, and then we want to run some cheap attacks in order to go as wide as possible. But it is also possible to go a bit tall with this deck. So you might already notice the versioning here. So we're gonna come back to some of these different attacks that have self-buff. So this is quite important, because we are going to try to draw some cards, but without Plunder Run, we're going to use another card, which is, I'm going to scroll down here, another card in order to force a draw, which is Force of Nature. So Force of Nature is kind of, it's a good card in Earth Briar, so you want to run 3 copies of those. So any attacks that have a kind of higher damage than its base, you get to draw a card. So if you were to fuse this, your next attack this turn gains +1. So regardless of your attack action or your weapon, it's going to get +1. But we would want to pair this up with some attacks. You would not want to play Force of Nature fusing it and then just swinging your Rosetta. That's not going to benefit you in any ways. We want to use this as an alternative to the Plunder Run. So our whole deck is going to revolve around this. I'm going to show you guys in a bit what I mean. Let's scroll back up. So there's a few ways in order to actually buff our attack. That's pretty simple to do. So we have Bramble Spark, of course. We have a bunch of Earth cards in this deck. This deck does not run any Lightning cards, so it's pretty straightforward in order to fuse. So you won't. I think you can fuse rather consistently with this deck. So we do have Burgeoning. You want to play this out of your arsenal. So if you do play Force of Nature, let's say you were to play out the Force of Nature even without fusing, and you play out the Burgeoning, since it's +1, you still get the benefit of the draw. So remember, Force of Nature basically reads that if the damage of the attack action is higher than the base, you get to draw a card. So we are looking at Captain's Call. Usually what I like to do with Plunder runs, playing out Plunder Run, another non-attack action, then play out Command and Conquer. So that basically brings it up to about 9 go again. But of course we don't have the luxury of that. Now Captain's Call is gonna give us some benefits in terms of go again. So next attack action costs 2 or less, we get to buff it up to 8. Of course, we don't have the luxury of drawing a card unless you pair it up with, once again, Force of Nature. Force of Nature, Captain's Call +2, Command and Conquer, and things like that. So Channel Mount Heroic is basically your staple in the deck. You would not want to remove this at any cost. Even without fusing with the Force of Nature, if you get to keep Channel Mount Heroic in the play or in the field or anything like that, all your attacks gonna get +3, and all your attacks gonna be able to draw a card if it hits. So that's huge. So you want to keep this as long as possible and try to pair it with Force of Nature if you can. Command Conquer, self-explanatory. So for each strike, I try to include as much as possible attack action card that are self-buffing. I mean, they are able to actually buff themselves, so they can benefit from the Force of Nature in order to get the draw. So for example, each strike here, you see that it has the +2 buff here. Usually what I would like to do actually playing out 2 non-attack action and then drawing a card. But it is also viable to get the +2 by playing Force of Nature, +2, and then if it hits, you get to draw a card. And then you could activate Spellbound Creepers or do some stuff. But the thing about each strike is you actually need to put 1 card to the bottom of the deck. So you want to play a bit around your hand size. So you want to make sure that you remember the additional cost to play each strike. So even though this is a simple thing, but sometimes you miscalculate and you forgot that each strike requires a additional cost, because you keep looking at the cost here, which is 0. So that's something you want to keep in mind. +2 here, remember, also benefits from the Force of Nature, drawing card. Exude Confidence is one of my favorite cards to play. So it's pretty good against control decks that relies heavily on defense reaction. So even cards that like to play Sigil and stuff like that. But of course, your opponent can still use Sigil before start defending. But if you activate the instant good enough, you can actually block most defense reaction. So another thing about Exude is, of course, once again, it's self-buffing. So you can actually play out Force of Nature, pay the 3 costs, and you get the 6, and you get the benefit of the draw. But it's not always that when you play this deck, you get to draw 2 blues. Sometimes you get the benefit of playing drawing 2 blues, and Force of Nature is a blue, of course. So it might happen that you don't have enough blues to activate this, but if you can get a fuse on the Force of Nature, that's pretty good too. So how the sequencing of... I'm going to talk about sequencing of play in a bit, but let's cover the other attacks. Life for a Life is just for the go again, but I think I'm going to drop this to 2 copies, or you guys can let me know what you guys think. I just value the go again. So we do play Sky in the deck, so maybe 3 copies of Life for a Life is too much. So we have Nimble Strike here. So I love Nimble Strike in this deck because of the +1 and go again. So once again, this plays very well with Force of Nature. If you can get it to banish the Nimbleism here, you can get +1 here, and you get to go again. So that's pretty good. So what I would like to do is basically drop these to 2 copies. 3 copies a bit too much, and sometimes you're drawing too much into Nimble Strike if you're playing 3 copies. And you end up not benefiting from the Nimbleism here. Nimbleism, of course, 3 copies. It's just plays very well with the overall idea of the deck. And you have a lot of attacks that are cost 1 and below, so that's not an issue. And then we have Ravenous Rebel. If you could get at least around even 3, let's say you reveal a yellow, you still get the benefit of Force of Nature. Because 6 is of course pairing it up with Nimbleism and stuff like that, you still get to draw a card. You'll notice that I'll talk about drawing cards a lot, because the purpose of this deck build is removing the Plunder runs. So we wanna draw cards because we wanna go as wide as possible. So that's the objective here. So Razor Reflex, another card, 2 copies of this. 3 copies, I feel like 3 copies is a bit too much. So we want to play only 2 copies because it might mess our Sonata up. And we want to sideboard this correctly. We don't want to bring this in every matchups. I would like to play this against aggro decks such as Chain, because we want to raise him. We don't want Chain to create too many Soul Shackles and stuff like that. So sideboard is out unless you're against aggro decks. Next we are looking against a Scar for Scar. Go again is just too good. Sink below, pretty basic. Put this in against warriors and take it out against. I guess you can still play 1 or 2 against other decks if you want. But the deck I feel like still benefits from hitting hard and hitting fast. Next we are looking at Snatch, pretty basic, self-explanatory. Sonata, self-explanatory. House of Cannonhole, self-explanatory. So Remembrance is something I've added because the game might extend to a long, I guess a long game. You want to put this against decks such as Oldhim and stuff, but I'm still debating whether I still want to put this in. I might take it out. Let me know what you guys think. Because if the game goes too long, it's gonna go into draw anyways. So I might just remove it, Remembrance anyways, and put in maybe 2 yellow Bramble Sparks. Bramble Spark is pretty good. I love that card. And then we are looking at some fuse cards here. So 3 Autumn Snatch, just useful for the fuse. 3 blue Bramble Sparks, you might want to reduce this to 2 maybe. It's entirely up to your preference and playtest. So and next we are looking at some Captain's Call, blue ones. So some of our 0 cost attacks can benefit, such as Scar, because Scar doesn't have the buff, as you can see. So you might want to give him Go Again if you have higher life than your opponent, or maybe even +2. Earthlaw Surge, just a great fuse card. You can pitch it, you can use it to fuse. Force of Nature, so the engine of the deck, everything revolves around this card. So tomorrow, pretty good against decks that try to draw the game out, control decks. So you want to put 3 copies in against control decks, and maybe 2 copies if you are against other decks. Tomb of Powers is a pretty good card in order to cycle your hand, your arsenal. So if you're stuck with a silly arsenal card, play this in order to cycle that out. And then Weave Earth, a 0 cost Earth card. Goes pretty well with Spellbound Creepers. Any 0 cost and non-attack action in this deck goes very well with Spellbound Creepers, just to gain the Go Again. And finally, Gorganian Tomb. So the idea of the deck, once again, we want to use Force of Nature in order to draw cards. I think it pairs really well with Channel Mount, but it does require a bit of setup. So you would want to play out your Channel Mount. Keep the Force of Nature if you can, or you draw into it and then you play it out. So that's it, guys. Let me know what you guys think. So with the Plunder run not being banned, I'm guessing we do have to make some changes, but I still think Briar is a tier 1 deck. Even with the ability of creating just 1 Earth token. Even creating 1 Earth token is pretty big because it gives us the flexibility of playing our non-attack action. There are 2 that has 2 defense value. So that's the Briar is the only hero that allows you to do that. So we want to take advantage of that. Previously we can create a bunch of Earth tokens, but I do have to agree with LSS, that's a pretty broken thing to have. Creating there's ones that I created up to 6 Earth token, which is really unfair to my opponent. So he took a bunch of damage and still I can block very well. So Captain's Call here, just one last thing. I might reduce it to 2, or maybe even 1, because we don't really play much 2 costs, and you may want to increase some, put in some blues into this deck, maybe some yellows. That's pretty much it, guys. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and see you guys in the next one. Do like, subscribe. That's it, guys. Bye.